100 years ago, 3 men died on the trip we're about to take. We're retracing a 100-year-old expedition on one of the world's most dangerous rivers.
Let's get ready to bolt.
The Amazon jungle was once a mighty foe for explorers. But has logging and climate change made it any less wild? I've explored many corners of this earth, but none are more endangered and more important to the health of our planet than the Amazon rainforest. I'm about to follow in the footsteps of a legendary U.S. president to find out how serious the problem is. I'll have some company on this adventure. My friend, travel writer Kristen Sarah will document this journey on her blog.
The smaller the plane,
The bigger the adventure. So we're on our way to a remote landing strip deep in the Amazon jungle, a place on the Rio Roosevelt, which is a river that was named after Teddy Roosevelt himself.
It was 1914, 3 years after his second term as president, when he embarked on an expedition to explore an uncharted river deep in the Amazon jungle. It was a trip that very nearly killed him. They faced raging rapids, wild animals, they lost boats, supplies, they went hungry. 3 members of his expedition didn't make it out alive. What better way of gauging the mood of the area than by retracing the most dangerous part of that expedition to see this untamed land for myself?
It's truly amazing just to see how big the jungle is from this point of view. Not only is it the largest rainforest in the world, it is also known as the lungs of the world because it produces 20% of the world's oxygen.
The Amazon is just so incredibly vast. There's plenty of spots that we've flown over that have been completely clear-cut.
In the last 20 years, it's lost over 295,000 square miles of forest. That's as big as 2 Germanys. Because of all that logging and the use of the slash and burn method, the downed trees are releasing the carbon dioxide they've absorbed back into the atmosphere, which results in more global warming.
All right, we made it.
Deforestation is far from the only threat to the region. Huge parts of it are drying up because of drought. That's a direct result of climate change. The forest isn't producing the water vapor, which forms the clouds that put the rain in the rainforest.
All right, this is so dense.
We're making our way to a point in the river where Roosevelt and his men started the hardest part of their expedition. It was a gutsy journey. We're going to duplicate part of it to find out how climate change has altered this once wild jungle.
So what do you do if you're the president of the United States? You've already served 2 terms. You tried to go back for a 3rd, was unsuccessful. Do you retire? Just fade away? Not if you're Roosevelt.
He came down to the Amazon and did a kick-ass expedition in one of the wildest places on Earth. I mean, that guy was the most badass president of all time. He had a pet badger. He carried a gun in the White House. He got shot in the chest in an assassination attempt and got on stage and gave a 90-minute speech. Complete badass. In Roosevelt's day, the environment was so hostile that he lost a few boats along the way. It would be one of the thrills of my lifetime to actually find a boat from that remarkable expedition.
Our location is right here. The Rio Roosevelt flows to the north.
It's 400 miles long, with many sections that are completely impassable. We know boats were lost while navigating the rapids, So we're going to concentrate our search at a bend in the river where a lost boat would likely wash up. Torrential downpours are on the horizon as rainy season gets underway. We have no time to lose.
The power of these rapids is incredible. That's where Roosevelt lost one of his men.
It doesn't take much to get swept into the rapids, which is exactly what happened to one of Roosevelt's crew members. His body was never even found.
Oh, this is just way too dangerous.
Yeah,
We're just gonna get
that's
smashed to
true.
bits. I don't want to be searching for your boat, and I don't want you searching for my boat.
I don't want to be searching for your body either.
Motorboats only go so far here. That's why we're going to portage past the rapids, then kayak the next leg of the river. The rapids are so powerful, I can actually feel the ground shaking.
1, 2, 3.
Tough slogging, and our kayak only weighs 50 pounds. Roosevelt's boats weighed 800.
Look at this.
Wow.
That is crazy. Just looking at these rapids, absolutely wicked, strong, very dangerous. Scares the hell out of me. It's not the kind of place you want to fall in. So much power.
It just makes sense to portage around this. For us, yeah, it's tough. But for the guys years ago, this would have been a multi-day effort. Cutting down trees, using logs as rollers. They had it hard, really hard.
I just lost my footing there for a second. When you're along the water, especially with these rocks, it's really easy to get trapped in here, kind of like I am right now. This is not serious, but when Roosevelt was here, he actually got his legs smashed between rocks and a canoe. That wound plagued him for the entire expedition, and some even think it contributed to his death. There we go.
Ready to pop it in?
Yeah. There are innumerable rapids down this river. Sometimes you have to portage, carry your boats across land. Sometimes you can put the boat in the water and line it down by rope. This is an easier way to do it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
We'll just haul it up here.
All right.
Perfect.
Nice parallel park.
We're past the worst of it, so let's see if we can do the next section the way Roosevelt did, paddling down the raging river.
There's a rock straight ahead.
Left, left, left. There we go.
Take that, Roosevelt!
We just got our first taste of what Roosevelt was up against. Luckily, Kristen recovers quickly.
Roosevelt, hurt me!
You got too cocky.
Back on track. Only 2 more miles to go, and we can start searching the bend in the river. There's a fishing lodge up there where we can get back into motorboats and make some real progress. We've done our research, and we've narrowed down the location.
That way.
We're on our way to the bend where the current could have carried one of Roosevelt's boats. A depth finder and an underwater camera are part of our search arsenal.
We are going to put this underwater metal detector to work.
I'm hoping it'll detect any of the boat's iron nails or fittings.
Sometimes, though, the best way to search in the water is to get right in.
Can you pass me the metal detector?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Just waiting for that sound.
Of course, there are all kinds of things living in the water here.
Electric eels, flesh-eating piranhas, and the tiny, blood-sucking candiru fish. It's been known to actually swim up your urethra if you pee in the water.
Got anything?
Not yet.
Want to know a little secret? I'm peeing right now. Badass.
I mean, that's your choice. I'm not doing it.
I survived.
For now.
No luck quite yet. Back in the boat. That's how you do it.
Let's move the search a little further north. In Roosevelt's day, he would have encountered a lot of wildlife. The biggest is the local crocodilian species, the black caiman.
That's a big one.
And wouldn't you know it, he's right where we want to search.
Black caiman are the apex predator of the Amazon. An adult caiman really has nothing to fear out here except for humans.
It's got good reason to fear us. Just 50 years ago, this king of the river was hunted almost to extinction. Over the last 100 years, its population has decreased by 99%, all for its high-quality skin, which produces shiny black leather. Caimans feed on fish, like piranha and catfish, and mammals, like the capybara, the largest rodent in the world. As caiman numbers decline, their prey thrives. The growing number of capybaras are destroying vegetation and crops. Hunting caimans is now illegal, and their population is slowly recovering. So, it's encouraging to come across a fully grown caiman out here.
Getting a little closer, so he's gonna feel trapped. We should back up.
These animals can't seem to catch a break, though. Their new enemy is drought. North of here, caiman populations are down again as water levels drop. I'd love to get a better look at this guy. At the same time, let's lure him away from our search site by offering him some lunch. Downriver. There's a big caiman right where we want to conduct the search for Roosevelt's long-lost boat. So, we're trying to lure him away. It takes a few hours to convince the caiman to clear out, and now we're losing daylight. We'll set up camp here for the night. But first, I want to install our stealth cam to get a sense of the state of the wildlife here.
This spot looks pretty good. Check this out. There's all kinds of tracks and activity. We have a hoof print here. Might have been a deer.
Look, green banded moss. So beautiful.
The Amazon basin contains so much biodiversity that 10% of all of the Earth's species are found here.
There are some amazing animals I'd love to catch sight of, especially one of the world's rarest big cats, the jaguar.
Any warm-blooded creature that comes by here will get picked up by the infrared sensor. All right, wildlife, anytime.
Show us something.
This spot here is totally flat enough. I'll stick up my tent right here. Here you go. Just want a little fire.
It's about 20 after 5 in the morning. I'm gonna go check on our cameras. Some people say it's insane to camp out here because of the threat of jaguars. They can hide and ambush you very, very quickly. They have been known to kill people. Needless to say, I'll make this a quick check. Okay, we've got a brocket deer and a Brazilian tapir. Both prey for the jaguar. But so far, no jaguar. They need huge amounts of territory to thrive, so they've been hit hard by habitat loss. There are now 80% fewer jaguars than when Roosevelt was here.
Whoa! George, come check this out. Those like jaguar
What you got?
paw prints.
Holy smokes, those are huge.
That's incredible.
Must have come down to take a drink. You see it stepped and then dragged its claws.
Oh yeah.
And that's not the only wildlife this beach has to offer this morning. These weaver birds make the most intricate nests.
Hello, Mr. Tarantula.
So how is climate change going to potentially affect the Amazon jungle? Well, it's hard to say, but a 2009 study suggested that as little as a 3-degree rise in temperature could destroy up to 75% of the rainforest.
And that's combined with deforestation, which not only destroys the area being logged, it also increases soil erosion and degrades rivers. Bad for the rainforest and bad for the wildlife that lives in it. Our quest continues. Based on Roosevelt's notes, we've searched up and down this bend. One of the only places left is off this beach. I'm using a glass-bottomed bucket. Simple, but effective.
Nothing yet.
Do you know how deep it is here? Do you have the depth sounder?
"10 feet.
Our research tells us we're close, but there's no sign of it in the river. But what about land that was underwater 100 years ago? This sandbar is the only place left to look.
Because the water level is so incredibly low right now, it could be exposed maybe just under a few feet of sand. Time to pull out some shovels and start digging.
Oh. Right here.
There's definitely something buried here. Here come the rain clouds. This is exactly what we feared. It could rain for days, and this sandbar will be submerged again. We've got to keep digging. It doesn't look like this rain is going to let up. It's discouraging to get this far and think I won't even have the chance to find the trophy I'm looking for. The legendary Theodore Roosevelt's lost boat. We're calling it a day and hoping nature is on our side tomorrow. We've looked high and low around the rapids and found nothing. The only reasonable place left to search is the sandbar. The metal detector was pinging, so I feel good about our chances here. I recruit some locals to help.
We're gonna be here digging forever.
Yeah. Something? Something wood? Hey!
Oh, yeah.
We must have dug a dozen different holes on this beach. And finally, we've come across
So it looks like a boat.
what looks like a boat. So it looks really, really promising.
Really big.
Yeah, it's
but
definitely
it
a
seems
boat.
like it's really big.
It's definitely a boat. This really looks like a dugout canoe.
Yeah.
The boats on the Roosevelt expedition were made from a single tree trunk, split in half and hollowed out. They measured about 10 feet long.
Oh, lightheaded. I think we might have found Jimmy Hoffa and Amelia Earhart and D.B. Cooper. We've got most of this boat excavated. Let's see if we can at least give it a budge. Ah!
Wow.
Awesome. The good news and the bad news. The good news is we found a boat against all odds. The bad news is this boat is much too new It's been painted. There's no way they would have painted their boats. This is an old fishing boat that got washed up here during the rainy season. Yeah, we might as well pull it out of here. 1, 2, 3. We have a boat. Well, this may not have been the boat we were looking for, but it's still pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's here along the river where he was. Looks like a dugout canoe, but not the right vintage.
And the boat, Roosevelt's boat, is still out there.
We've searched the entire bend. Now, the wet season is approaching and river levels are rising. If we want to find Roosevelt's boat, it'll have to wait another year. Of all the American presidents, Theodore Roosevelt was the most passionate about saving the environment. During his presidency, he protected over 230 million acres of public land, including 150 national forests and 5 national parks. So, is the Amazon tamer than in Roosevelt's day? It's hard to say. We faced many of the same challenges he did 100 years ago. What's different? Today, the rainforest is suffering the effects of human activity through deforestation and climate change. Great strides have been made to reverse the damage, but it'll take a lot more effort to make sure this remains one of the wildest places on Earth.
I looked out the window, and there I saw this massive wall of flame.
Holy this is crazy.
We're fighting the beast. It was a living, breathing, eating machine.
We had 860,000 liters of fuel.
Where are you? Right now, I'm escorting fuel through a burning hell.
I'm getting phone calls from parents. Where are you? Do you have my child?
It's monstrous. It does whatever it wants to do. It will eat anything in its path.
Holy look at that!
Oh my God, it's gonna burn down!
As temperatures rise all around the globe, natural disasters are becoming more violent and more frequent. Extreme weather survivors have captured the intensity and the magnitude of these events. These are first-hand accounts of a planet gone rogue. One of the worst natural disasters in Canadian history struck on May 3rd, 2016, when a wildfire ripped through the city of Fort McMurray, Alberta. The fire became known as the Beast and forced 88,000 people out of their homes, scrambling for their lives.
Might have been the last time I ever saw my house right there. Holy!
Fire Chief Darby Allen led the city's efforts to battle the blaze.
At times, it was 500 or 600 feet in the air, taking up all your eyesight. So as far as you could see left and right, and in the air, it was flame. And for those people that were on the ground fighting that fire, overwhelming.
Just down the road from where I live.
On Monday morning, Fort McMurray resident Jason Louvel films the season's first fires from his rooftop.
It's fire number 2. There's fire number 1. A few water bombers in there now. That's a bad one over there, folks. We could see the smoke, so that's why we went in and see what was happening. You okay back there, puppy? Say hi. Yeah. Well, there's off-road trails throughout. You can just take the trails, and they do end up leading to where the fires were. Well, there it is. Another big forest fire for Fort Mac.
The wildfire west of Fort McMurray grew overnight, but it has been kept in check and away from town by overnight dozer work and ground firefighting efforts.
Super dry. It's 30 degrees again today. Wind changes direction. It's gonna come into town and we're gonna have to evacuate.
You know, I'm informed it was the driest conditions for 50 years. We'd had consistent high temperatures, no humidity. It's prime for any type of ignition source for that forest in some way or another to get going.
Fort McMurray is surrounded by the northern boreal forest, which spans from Alaska to Newfoundland. And the heart of Canada's oil production sits 100 kilometers north of the city. It's the Athabasca oil sands, where over 1 million barrels of heavy crude oil are pumped out of the ground every day. So when the first fires start just a few kilometers from the city, water bombers and helicopters are quickly dispatched by Alberta Forestry.
I don't think they want us here anymore, because they're blocking the road.
I think we just got in trouble for coming and watching the fire. The helicopter's landing.
Yep.
Jason and his friends are told to clear the road so ground crews can pave the way for an air attack. This early on, a lot hinges on how fast and how hard these units can strike.
There they go.
Sweet!
Well, the lady said they're gonna be bombing here very shortly. They should be getting out of here.
I'm concerned. I know how dry it is. We also know how quick this thing is moving. And I'm concerned, although the reports are it's going to pass us by, the wind is continually changing. So although the wind is currently taking it down and away, if that wind changes, we're in trouble.
6:30 at night, on my way to night shift. There's a huge plume of smoke coming up just over the hill. Ash everywhere on the ground.
Chris Burrows and Gina Bourdois have lived here for a decade. They've seen their share of wildfires, but this one is different.
So, in a sense, we were sort of jaded because, yeah, we'd been living in a forest fire area and a forest fire zone, but it never got that close. Hope we make it through tonight. A little more fire starting.
So at the end of the day, on the 2nd, we were in a comfortable position enough. There was no imminent threat at that time. But although we were hopeful, I was concerned that we were going to have some trouble on the 3rd.
When dusk comes, firefighting crews are pulled back to safety. And Dale Benfeld gets ready for a long night.
And that's what I did all Monday night, was monitor the situation with the staff that I had in the regional operations center. And really, that's the calm before the storm. At night, with the way the ground is out there, there's a number of valleys, there's a number of gullies. It can go in any direction, but you don't know where it is because you don't have a visual on it. Anything could happen.
The following morning, residents wake up to a crisp blue sky and everything seems to be under control.
It's a beautiful day. There's very little smoke in the air. People are phoning me, we're fine, everything's wonderful. I remember giving a press conference that morning saying, you know what, let's not really count our chickens. That fire's sitting there and it's just resting up and it's gonna come back. People think it's fine and it's all gone away. And it's nice to have that thought, but I just want people to bear in mind and don't get into a full self-security. We're in for a rough day.
What Chief Allen fears is an inversion. At night, the cool air keeps a lid on the fire and smoke below. So even though a fire might still be going, no smoke can be seen. But as the morning sun heats up the atmosphere, the cold air mass lifts and the fire emerges.
Oh dear. It's getting bad again. All the fires have worked on, all restarted.
Fluid situation in downtown Fort McMurray. The winds have shifted, so we have some announcements. This is a 30-minute alert to potential evacuation. Be ready, have your bag packed, be ready to leave when the announcement comes.
Oh boy.
The winds pick up and push the fire towards the southern edge of the city, in the direction of the Abasand Grayling Terrace and Beacon Hill neighborhoods.
So we're live here in Fort McMurray in the community of Beacon Hill. This is one community under voluntary evacuation. And I'll tell you, basically noon came and it went from kind of smoky, and then in a matter of 20 minutes or so, you know, it just went black.
There's no more waiting around. We're evacuating. We wrote out a very quick evacuation order, and away it went.
Mandatory evacuation update, okay? Residents of Avasand, Grayling Terrace, Beacon Hill are now under a mandatory evacuation order.
Mandatory evac. They want us out of here. People are panicking, there's accidents everywhere. It doesn't seem like we're gonna be getting out of here. It was just me and my missus here and the animals, so we just picked up what we could here and tried to get out of town.
Gina is at work when she hears the evacuation order.
I thought to myself, oh my gosh, like Chris is at home right now. I need to call him. Called him, no answer. Of course he's sleeping because he has to work that night.
I was sound asleep. I had earplugs in from working the night before.
I ended up calling my neighbor, and my neighbor said, okay, I'm not home right now, but I'll get my boyfriend to go knock on the door.
And as I woke up, I could feel the house shaking because of the slamming going on in the door. And I looked out the window, and there I saw this massive wall of flame.
With minutes to spare, Chris gets out of his house and jumps into his neighbor's truck.
There was cars everywhere, so somebody had actually backed their truck up, smashed the gate going into a running trail into the forest, and we went through the woods down a running trail instead of getting stuck on the street.
As news of the evacuation sweeps through the city's neighborhoods, gridlock brings traffic to a standstill.
Here's old Avasand, it's gonna burn down. She's pretty bad, boys. Burning up pretty good.
The cops got to get directing traffic and get people moving out of here. We're all sitting ducks if this starts breaching the property line.
Fort McMurray is in the middle of the Borealis Forest. There's one way in and there's one way out. But can the roads take the people? And the rationale was no, the roads can't take the people.
On May 3rd, 2016, a seasonal wildfire unexpectedly burns out of control.
Hasty exit. Might have been the last time I ever saw my house right there. Holy!
It threatens the Canadian oil sands boomtown of Fort McMurray, Alberta.
Mandatory evacuation order. You gotta stay calm.
Lord, keep us safe. Get us out of Fort McMurray in one piece.
Right out his name, look at that. Oh my God.
Whoa.
I can feel
Holy crap.
the window is hot.
Fort McMurray is home to 88,000 residents. And if they can make it out of their neighborhoods to reach the only highway in town, they might have a chance to survive.
By now, there are areas of the city that are completely engulfed in fire. It's monstrous. It does whatever it wants to do. It will eat anything in its path.
The beast does not let up. In a terrifying display of its unstoppable power, it jumps across the Athabasca River.
It jumped 1,200 feet.
That was astounding to us, because we had been told time again that the river was enough of a buffer that it wouldn't cross it.
When it reaches something it wants to go across, but naturally it's stopping it, it tends to bend over the top. So that fire load and that wind is forcing it over the top. So those embers fly over now and they start touching down on the other side. You know, in a typical fire, you're talking about little pieces of embers. Here we're talking about whole pieces of trees and flying large debris that's on fire that's now falling on the other side of the river.
It is chaos, really. You hear the emergency sirens going, but I need to show you, it's not just on the border. This is Fort McMurray burning.
Get out of town just in time.
Getting the out of Dodge. I can feel the heat here.
This is insane. Holy. Oh, you can feel the heat.
Not zoomed in.
Holy. This is crazy.
Yeah, we're just stuck on the hill here. I think you may want to consider shutting down 63 or you're not going to be able to get any of those cars that have it there. If you have to shut it down, that's up to you.
This is Highway 63. The fire seems to be burning across the highway. So people who are trying to go southbound on Highway 63 here to get away from all of this now are likely having to turn around.
Holy. Look at that. Roll your window up. Over that lane. Holy.
I felt I needed to go on the ground to get a sense of what was going on, to feel the situation. When I get to Abisan, I'm watching the side of the hill burning. There's a lineup of vehicles going up the hill. So each vehicle I assessed was about 3 meters long. Given that, I think about 10,000 vehicles have to leave this city. I don't have enough space. And this is where I'm talking with Darby. I say, we've got to move people north and south.
The decision was made that if you lived south of Taganova, you will go south. If you live north of Taganova, you will go north. So we changed the southbound lanes to all be northbound so that the traffic could get out of town.
Our most effective tool, hands down, turned out to be Twitter. You know, there was no fluff language in anything. It was, this community is under mandatory evacuation. This is where you need to go. But you're talking tens of thousands of people getting to see that message really quickly based on how fast it was being shared.
Chris and Gina reunite in a downtown parking lot.
Gave him a big hug, big kiss. Yeah, we held each other for a long time.
Yeah. I don't know.
It was nice to get everyone together finally, but, you know, what do we do? Where do we go?
Rock 97.9, sorry to interrupt the Guns N' Roses, but here's what we've heard so far from multiple people. Southbound 63, according to reports, is opened up.
Somebody drove by and hollered out their window, the southbound highway is open. It's open. So we all kind of looked at each other and thought, let's get out of here. Let's make our way towards Edmonton.
We just left Walmart, but everything, like, you remember that hill where we go up? Everything, all that side of the hill's on fire, the other side on the highway, everything is on fire, flames.
Get the hell out of there.
We're leaving now. It is absolutely crazy. Okay, honey, just drive. Get past all this. I don't want to be in this smoke. I want to go.
Gee, I'm going. Just relax. We're doing everything we can.
We're driving into it, and like, I wish I had a mask.
Look at this, G.
Oh my God.
And as we were leaving the city, we drove right into a tremendous wall of smoke and fire. It was on both sides of the highway.
There's not enough firefighters for all this.
Oh my God, if there was, we wouldn't have this. Look at the cars. People parked in the ditch. They just left their cars and got out. What's going on? Look at this. Look at all these cars. Vehicles would stall when they started taking up the smoke. They would get no combustion in their engine. So they were left stuck there.
Oh my God, Chris, look at the other side. Oh my God.
This is just horrific. It was out of a zombie apocalypse movie. Look at this bus. Oh my God. Oh my God, Denny's. Look at this.
Oh my God.
The whole hotel is gone.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Look at this the whole trailer park is gone. One day, and it just ripped through the whole city. One day. So many people's homes are gone. This is, we're finally leaving city limits.
The fire does not let up. And now that the beast has jumped over the Athabasca, it's making its way north of the city.
So now it's got a clear path up towards the majority of our population, 40 or 50,000 residents in the Thickwood and Timberley area.
On May 3rd, 2016, a raging wildfire bursts into the city of Fort McMurray, Alberta.
Holy
Oh my God. The whole hotel is gone.
All of the lanes south of town are dedicated to south traffic.
3 neighborhoods in the southern part of the town are being evacuated, and the situation worsens when the fire heads north.
Mandatory evacuation for everyone, everywhere. There's the official word we were waiting for.
So now we're faced with a fire coming into town that's approximately 4 or 5 kilometers wide, and it's about 20 kilometers long. We sent approximately 25,000 people north, and we didn't know where we were sending them. We just knew we had to get them out of town at that time.
To the north of the city are the oil sands production facilities, but also the camps that house the workers employed by the energy industry.
A lot of these camps can hold up to a couple thousand workers at a time. They're very large, so I knew there's a safe spot 20 kilometers away. And I started telling everybody, get the message out, everybody goes to Noralta Lodge. From there, we could get people farmed out to all the other camps north of here.
At the Father Turcotte Elementary School in downtown Fort McMurray, a few students are still waiting for their moms and dads. But Principal Lisa Hilsentegger decides it's too dangerous to wait any longer.
There didn't seem to be any more parents showing up at this time. So I did an all call in the school. We're leaving, please come to the front. Students got on the bus, I got on, closed the door. There was no doubt in my mind that that was my responsibility to see it to the end, to get all the students home.
Just a repeat for you, a mandatory evacuation for the entire city of Fort McMurray is now in effect.
At this point, we were being told to go north. And it was very slow. It was very hot on the bus. And it was dark, but it was very orange.
Residents go to Noralta Lodge, which is 21 kilometers north of Fort McMurray.
Miguel and Pam Borges are also heading north with their 3 children.
Originally, we were heading north, and that's what the emergency broadcast kept telling us. The highway south is closed, fires across the highway, you can't go south. And then we're heading down Thickwood Boulevard, and then the police are directing us to go south. So we went south.
We were in separate cars, and I thought, oh, please, do not send him south and me north, because, like, there's just no way. I wouldn't be able to do it. I think I would just disobey and say, nope, sorry, I'm leaving.
63 South, visibility is poor. There's fire right along the side of the highway, but we've had a couple people tell us you can get through, but drive with extreme caution. There are lots of people pulled over on the side of the road.
So we hit the highway, all of a sudden traffic's moving, and then we get up to the bridges to head downtown, and smoke everywhere. You can't see any of the buildings. And then we see up on Abasand, fires right at the highway.
It's just fire.
Right
at the highway.
And then finally we hit the top of Beacon Hill and we see the hotel on fire and the gas station and everything else is on fire there. We're just gonna keep driving.
The message is to get out. I think people are realizing this now. If they were staying behind, you know, it's just too risky. And when you drive by this, you know why, you have to get out.
While the highway fills up with traffic, firefighters save the homes people have left behind.
You know, I had 32 guys on duty that day. 65 guys came in their own time and fought that fire. We had approximately 100 firefighters from industry that came into town to help us.
They're dumping right at us.
Mel Engelstad was part of that group of first responders.
Oh, here she comes. She's coming through the bushes. The question is, how wide is this sucker?
We are taking communities and saying, we can protect this community, we can save this community, but this one is already so far gone, we need to redeploy and move. There were various areas in the city where it was literally, if we didn't pull those guys out, they wouldn't have survived.
For one firefighter, the fight became very personal.
We had been sent up to assist a pump crew that was up in Abasand. We're driving down my block, and I noticed that I'm looking at my house that's on fire. It's the first one on the block, and it's fully engulfed in flames. I said, oh shit, all right, there it goes. The trampoline was on fire. You know, my kids played daily on that trampoline. I watched my 69 Firebird in the garage come up in flames. Firebird was on fire. At that moment, my captain got out of the truck to come stand beside me. He put his hand on my shoulder. He's like, "Do you need a moment?" And I said, "No, there's nothing we can do here. It's all stuffed and it's all gone. So let's go make a stand somewhere else."
Miguel and Pam have made it out of town. But now they're stuck in traffic, and the next gas station is 200 kilometers away.
So this is when real panic started setting in because Pam's van was going to run out of gas.
Miguel and Pam aren't the only motorists running out of gas. But when stranded evacuees ask for help on social media, a private group of truck enthusiasts comes to the rescue.
I knew as soon as they were evacuating town that a lot of people wouldn't make it. So we left Edmonton in a group of 3, and we just started kind of putting out messages to whoever else that was coming. We just stopped at one of the card locks on the way. I swiped my card out of my own account, filled up whatever we could hold, and away we went north. So every time that we'd saw someone on the side of the roads, we'd pull a U-turn. We'd say, "Hey, do you need anything? You know, we have fuel on, we have snacks for the kids, we've got some dog food, cat food." Anyone who needed help, company truck, personal truck, if you needed help, we were there.
By the time Miguel and Pam Borges reach a service station that still has some gas to sell, they're running on fumes.
So we get in the line for gas there, and maybe 1,000 cars, literally 1,000 cars in front of us. And during the line, a woman approached us and said, "Hey, you got kids, you look tired, do you need a place to stay?" If so, they're about to open a camp. They're about to open, it's not open yet, about a kilometer down the road. She said, "Yeah, sure, we have no plans, you know, we've been driving all day."
The Borges family finally arrives at the Wandering River Camp, an oil industry facility.
So they have a lady at the desk. You give them your license plate number, and it's like, "Okay, go get something to eat." So it was like the best chicken fingers ever because we were really hungry.
Back up north, Principal Lisa is still on the school bus with her precious cargo.
Now I'm getting phone calls from parents. "Where are you? Do you have my child?" They're frantic. And I remained as calm as I could. "We have them. They're safe. They're good. This is where we're at. We'll find you. Where are you?"
It takes them 5 hours to reach an oil camp. There, Lisa reunites more students with their parents. But when she learns that the route south is open again, she rounds up the few kids still in her charge and decides to take the chance.
It was black. You could just barely see the lines on the road. When we got closer to the city, we saw the hotel along Highway 63 had burned. So we knew that Beacon Hill was gone. Once we got to the south end of the city, we knew we were going to be okay.
Lisa takes the last kids to her dad's place, where they stayed for a few days until they were reunited with their parents.
And finally, at this point, I thought, I did my job.
As his firefighters work into the night, battling multiple fires spreading throughout the city, Chief Darby delivers a sobering update.
It's in the city. It is impacting communities as we speak, and homes are on fire as we speak. It's a sad day for everyone in McMurray. We've had a devastating day.
May 3rd, 2016 delivered a devastating blow to the city of Fort McMurray, when a ferocious wildfire swept into the oil sands boomtown and forced 88,000 people to flee for their lives.
We successfully evacuated 88,000 people. No one is hurt. and no one has passed away right now. I really hope that we get to the end of this and we can still say that.
When the first light came on the 4th, we managed to get some reconnaissance and see what had happened. And I felt a weight lift off to my shoulder once we realized that the people were out, because that creates a different dynamic. Now we're fighting structure fire.
The fire they nicknamed the Beast is still raging, and it's getting bigger.
It was everywhere. We use the term the Beast. I call it a three-headed monster because it was going east, then it went north, it went south. It was constantly changing.
We literally walls of flames. At times there's walls of flames like that, 100 feet tall on 3 sides of us.
This thing was a living thing. No matter what you were doing, it was going to do something else.
We were fighting the beast. It was a fight. You go and you go and you go until there's no more give.
It was moving sometimes, 3 meters per minute, then 12 meters per minute, and then we were hearing 102 meters per minute.
It seemed to have a mind of its own. It did whatever it wanted, it went where it wanted. It was a living, breathing, eating machine. It was hungry. The beast was hungry, and we had to try and get ahead of it.
As the Beast grows in size and power, it creates its own weather system. As intense heat from the ground rises up, the smoke carries water vapor and ash and forms into a pyrocumulus cloud. As the hot air moves up, cooler air rushing in to replace it produces severe gusts of wind inside the inferno, which in turn fuels the fire. By now, firefighters from other parts of the province have joined Darby's troops to help save homes and critical infrastructure, but they're running on empty.
A couple of our members are actually volunteer firefighters. One of them messaged us and said, you need to get here as quick as you can because a lot of the fire trucks are running out of fuel. We have nothing. We drove up the highway from the police roadblock and we literally drove through 3 or 4 sections of fire on either side of the road. Pitch dark, smoke so thick that you could barely see the vehicle in front of you.
We need light plants and generators.
Where are you?
Oh, well, right now I'm escorting fuel through a burning hell. Up 63.
We had 860,000 liters of fuel. We thought if anyone looked at this from the outside, they'd think we're crazy. We're literally driving a vehicle loaded with a bomb through an inferno. They couldn't really believe that we were just a regular bunch of guys that figured that someone would need help, and we just kind of showed up.
Back near the Athabasca River, the fire is still raging and is fast approaching one of the city's most critical pieces of infrastructure.
This water treatment plant is what feeds all the hydrants that's being used in the firefight.
As a firefighter, the worst thing you feel is when you don't feel that pressure in that hose line and that water's not coming in the end.
As the fire advances towards the plant, a skeleton crew of engineers man the pumps to keep the water flowing.
You could stand in this control room here and look out at the fire, and you could watch the flame start up when a wind gust came through and go back down. Like, the fire was everywhere.
Those guys were still in the water treatment plant, keeping that water going, with fire totally around.
The firefighters are doing their part to help fight the fire on the front line. We need to provide them with water.
If we had lost our water treatment plant, we would have lost our city.
In the following days, strong gusts of wind fanned the fires.
Now it's heading towards those oil sands plants where we've got all those people.
I had to evacuate north to one of the camps up north, and one of the big fears up in the northern camps was, well, what if the fire went north and continued going north and blocked off the highway? We would essentially all be stranded up there, and by day 2, that was becoming a real sense of worry.
So we brought them out in convoys. RCMP vehicle in the front. I believe there was 30 or 40 vehicles at a time in that convoy.
The energy companies also charter additional planes to fly evacuees and their pets to Edmonton and Calgary.
Once you started hearing about the flight starting to go out, I think there was a little bit more calmness in those camps from the evacuees because they knew that they were going to get to safety sooner rather than later.
In all, about 25,000 people were evacuated from the northern camps. And as they fled, hundreds of firefighters flew in from all over Canada to assist in driving out the beast. By May 12th, through the persistence and bravery of many, the fire was finally chased out of Fort McMurray.
Hey everybody, just want to let you know we think we got this thing beat in McMurray. So I just want to let you know, like we just can't let you back until it's safe. We got to check the electricity, water, all that stuff. So we'll get you back as soon as we can, we promise. Be patient, look after yourselves, take care.
Now the question on everyone's mind is how much damage did the city suffer and whose homes are still standing? For a whole week and all around the clock, hundreds of firefighters battle the terrifying blaze that engulfs Fort McMurray, Alberta. On May 13, 2016, Chief Darby Allen confirms that within city limits, the fire is under control.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much.
But that doesn't mean 88,000 evacuees can now return home.
I know that everyone is anxious to return home. We're anxious for you to return home. But there is some work to be done to make sure it's safe for everyone before that can happen.
Chief Darby takes Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Alberta Premier Rachel Notley on a tour for a first-hand look at the destruction. Entire neighborhoods have been destroyed. In total, about 2,700 homes have burned to the ground, and many more have sustained severe damage. But this tally only accounts for bricks and mortar. It does not include the deep emotional distress that now affects the entire community.
For many years, Fort McMurray contributed huge amounts to the growth of our economy. Now this community needs help, and I can guarantee you, Canada will be here for this community.
It will be weeks before the city is ready for residents to return. But it could have been a lot worse.
In those early days, we knew that we had managed to save a good chunk of the properties, and you know, it turned out that we saved around 84% of the properties.
The city was surrounded by an ocean of fire, but Fort McMurray and the surrounding communities have been saved, and they will be rebuilt.
But getting the city ready to take back 88,000 residents is easier said than done.
It's really easy to turn the switch off, but to start it on again is a whole lot more work. You've got to get banks back online, you've got gas stations back online. And the big part about that too is that when you evacuate everybody, that means all your workers are gone too.
While the city of Fort McMurray prepares to rise from the ashes, the beast still roams the forest.
Even though it was outside the city, it was still burning out there. It headed across into Saskatchewan.
It would take another month and the help of Mother Nature to bring the fire under control. By then, it had spread across more than 589,000 hectares of wilderness. A very large area, but for experts, it comes with the territory.
In Canada, on average, we have about 7,000 forest fires, and it burns about 2 million hectares, which is about half the size of Nova Scotia.
Fires are part of the natural cycle of the boreal forest. Fire reduces the spread of disease and resets the clock for new generations of trees.
We have fire on the landscape. Wherever we have vegetation, we can have fire. Unfortunately, sometimes communities get in the way of the path of a fire, as in the case in Fort McMurray, and then you have disastrous results. Now, the fire is still under investigation. We're not sure exactly what caused it. It may have been a four-wheeled vehicle from a spark hitting a rock, or sometimes material gets caught up on the muffler and it heats up and starts to smolder, and then the wind comes along and we're off to the races.
Whatever made the spark, it was a human who caused the fire. But it will take years of study before the increasing risk and severity of wildfires in the Canadian boreal forest can be fully understood.
Fire in Canada has doubled since the 70s, and we believe this is due to human-caused climate change. 3 reasons. Fire seasons are longer. The official fire season in Alberta now starts March 1st. It used to be April 1st. Second, the warmer it gets, the more lightning we get. The more lightning we get, everything else being equal, the more fires we get. Third reason, as the atmosphere warms, fuels will be drier, easier for fires to start and spread. So we expect more intense fires in the future.
The re-entry date is set for June 1st. As thousands prepare to return, the city tries to help soften the shock.
When you leave and all you see is a burning wall of fire, you're going to think the worst. And so it was our job to make sure that there was hope.
The communication team sets up a website that posts aerial before and after photographs of every single residential and commercial property in Fort McMurray.
We had to preface that with the knowledge that this may be the way that you find out that you've lost your home. And that there was, when you first got to this website, that message did come up. We understand that it was going to be a very challenging and emotionally hard experience for a lot of folks and that lost their homes. And this isn't just a house that you lose, it's a lifetime of memories in a lot of cases.
Many months would pass before all the financial costs would be known. Calculating the emotional toll of the fires on families and marriages will be more difficult to assess for those who decide to leave and start a new life elsewhere, and those who choose to stay, to rebuild and to resume their lives in the town they call home. By June 1st, 88,000 Fort McMurray residents begin returning to their communities, and a welcoming committee is awaiting them.
We drove in, and just as we're up to the bridge, Carmen wakes up, and she sees the firefighters, and she said, "Are we home? Are we home?" And she was super excited. She started to cry, and then, of course, I started to cry.
Our chief, Darby Allen, organized 2 trucks to stay on top of the bridge coming into town. We had a huge 50-foot Canadian flag flapping in the air, and 2 crews of firefighters standing on the bridge waving at everyone coming in through on us.
There was a lot of honking horns and tears, and for my guys that were on that bridge, it meant a lot for them too.
We were the last people they see when they left the town. So for them to see us coming back into town, standing there waving at them, I think that hit a lot of hearts in a great way.
But for many returning residents, the firefighters' warm welcome was followed by a devastating and heartbreaking sight. Entire neighborhoods destroyed by the wildfires.
I knew that the house wasn't going to survive, but there's always that hope. You hope that you have a home to come home to.
All that remains of Chris Burrow's house is an empty lot filled with ashes and debris.
There was a few things that we managed to pull out of the remains. This is what's left of my grandfather's watch from after the war. This was what my mom kept and would put our family's baby teeth in. So other than that, everything perished in the fire, and it was tragic.
Whoa, it jumped the road from over here.
As Jason Louvel and his girlfriend drive into their neighborhood, it appears that most of the homes have been destroyed.
What you're looking at is supposed to be all houses. All these houses, look, those houses, perfectly fine, eh? They just sprayed over so it wouldn't burn.
But near the end of the road, they see that their house has been spared.
The house, it was in rough shape, you know, there was ash in the house. We had left a few windows open, and so it was smoked out a bit. But it was phenomenal to come and see the house still here. It's a good feeling. Wrapped in a cocoon. We had to wash all the walls in the house, and down in the basement, all the floors had to be scrubbed. Holy Had to get the ceilings repainted. But the last step. Looking back on it, it's hard. It fills me up sometimes still, talking about it and just thinking about it. Almost back to normal. Hey, puppy.
For now, the hard-working people of Fort McMurray remain focused on rebuilding their homes and their communities and making Fort Mac a safer and better place to live.
You know, it's an unbelievable town, and I've only worked here for 7 years, but this place welcomed me, and I feel a tremendous kinship, ownership with the people here. And I think, if anything, you know, this has maybe let the rest of the country know that it's a pretty good place to be.
She had already had her mouth over my head. She would have killed me.
She was looking for a death bite.
They go through bone like you and I go through a candy bar.
It's everyone's worst nightmare, being eaten alive by a wild animal. In this episode, 3 horrific stories of people who've been attacked by predators of the African savanna. What's it like to become human prey? Conservationist Gary Kamasha was lucky to escape alive when he was savagely attacked by a lion on a game reserve.
And I thought that this was it. I thought this would be the end.
The African savanna, home to one of the most feared predators on Earth, the lion. Thousands of people have met their end in the jaws of these killer cats. This pride lives in a game reserve in South Africa's Mpumalanga province. And when food is short or they feel threatened, these big cats can turn man-eater. With lions around, no one can afford to be off guard. Danger is part of the job for 23-year-old conservationist Gary Kamasha. He manages the reserve's lions, and today he has a problem. A lioness is wounded, and she's pregnant.
This female, because she was injured and finding it difficult to keep up with the pride to feed and to compete for food around the carcasses and things like that, she was getting very hungry.
If Gary tries to treat the lioness, the pride could tear him apart. His plan? To isolate her in an enclosure by luring her in with bait. But the dominant males get to the meat first. Some are her own offspring.
Here we go. Home-style break.
Days later, Gary is still waiting. He relaxes with friends and makes a dangerous mistake.
24. Yep.
I took off my sidearm and put it to the one side to just be more comfortable and not thinking of anything that can happen at that point.
But today will be different. The pride is staying outside the enclosure, and the hungry lioness grabs the opportunity to feed.
She's in the enclosure.
Gary is delighted she's finally taken the bait.
I'll be back in a couple of minutes. I just want to close the gate.
Now he can treat her injury.
5 minutes. Come, let's go.
I basically thought, okay, this is what we've been hoping for. Let's quickly go and close the gates and make sure that she's constrained inside.
But in the rush, he's forgotten the one thing that could protect him in an attack. – 150 feet from the enclosure gates, they see the pride. The lioness isn't with them.
There she is, behind that bush.
Oh. Gary is relieved his plan is finally working. But something is wrong.
She's not alone.
One of the pride's aggressive young males is inside the enclosure and will attack if threatened.
This male was always been a bit edgy and agitated, barking at you and coughing, the typical attack bark if you get too close to him.
Getting the young lion out is dangerous, but without treatment, the lioness could die of gangrene. Gary's plan, forcing the young male out by using the truck.
So we went into the gate and I tried to get the vehicle between the male and this female and then push him out so that he could be running out. And once he would be outside, we could close the gates.
But the young lion isn't easily intimidated. He's not leaving.
I think what happened at that point, he was looking at the movement in the vehicle, so the vehicle and the people inside was posing a threat to him as well as myself. And instead of him running for the gate, he was just seeing himself being crowded by this whole scenario. I was worried that he might start getting agitated, running up and down, psyching up the female as well as the rest of the pride.
Forcing him out with the truck hasn't worked. All Gary can do now is try to flush the lion out himself.
Just gonna have to go in there and chase him out.
I thought I'd go on foot, use the vehicle as protection so the female couldn't really see what was going on, and then chase him out on foot.
It's a risky move, especially as Gary still hasn't realized he's forgotten his gun.
Trying to flush a young adolescent male on foot is a big mistake. Young males tend to be the biggest troublemakers. Lions are not used to being in close proximity to human beings that are not inside of a vehicle.
The lion is starting to feel threatened. It could attack at any moment.
I was just assuming that this male would just run out, and I wasn't even thinking of him feeling a bit of discomfort. I was entering his comfort zone and his personal space.
And he was essentially cornered because he was in a fenced-in area, so that's the time when an animal will react out of fear.
Instead of diverting his direction towards the gap between myself and the vehicle, he was actually zooming in on me. I realized he was coming for me now. I did think of that point my sidearm. This was the most stupid thing that I could have done. I don't know why I took it off.
Gary tries frantically to get out of the lion's way, but it's too late.
He was planning to go for my upper body. I moved back, he misjudged himself. I think that actually, to a certain extent, saved my life.
The lion has missed Gary's head, but it locks its vice-like jaws around his leg. His friends, also unarmed, can only watch in horror. Gary has now become human prey. A lion has savagely attacked conservationist Gary Kamash. Unarmed, he must now fight for his life with his bare hands.
And I had my hands trying to push his head down and away from me and keep him down. It was like an iron vice, a big vice just clamping around my leg.
A lion's jaws can bite with nearly 900 pounds of pressure, enough to snap the spine of its prey with ease.
The lion certainly was trying to control him and immobilize him and get him to a point where he could access a more vital area.
Outside the enclosure, the pride can smell blood.
The pride were trying to figure out what's busy happening, where did those sounds come from.
The pride is becoming restless. If they join in the attack, Gary is finished. Frantic, he tries to pry open the lion's jaws.
Well, I tried to put my thumbs into his mouth between his premolars. I couldn't get in him, they were already too close to each other. I just realized there's no way so I'll be able to get my leg out of this.
Gary's friend Johan tries to find anything he can to use as a weapon. But he comes up empty. pride is getting agitated. They can sense a kill.
Some lions are dedicated man-eaters, using humans as a regular part of their diet.
The hunting instinct kicks in. The attack is on.
The rest of the pride was already coming in, and I shouted to my friend, keep the rest of the pride away, keep the rest of the pride away. And knowing that if they would come in, it would have been the end.
Keep the freaking pride away!
I thought that this was it, you know. With the rest of the pride coming in to assist, I thought this would be the end. I wouldn't be able to fend off the rest of the group, so I was shouting at him, and he jumped out of the vehicle and started throwing pieces of branches and rock.
Incredibly, Johan manages to hold the pride back.
I'm coming!
But Gary's leg is still locked in the lion's mouth. He needs to do something fast. Desperate, Gary attacks the lion's only weak spot, its eyes.
I could just feel when I pressed my thumb into his eye that he was blinking and trying to get out. That was hurting him.
The nose and the eyes are very vulnerable. That's the part of them that they have to, at all costs, protect.
But the lion won't let go. It fights back with razor-sharp claws.
Or not only will they shred your flesh like a hot knife through butter, but the infections caused by those claws are also very septic and can lead to rapid infection and death.
A lion's claws carry deadly bacteria that can cause tumors, inflammation of the heart, and kidney failure.
I still remember the sound of ripping flesh. And I could see the skin stretching, and then could feel the skin ripping.
Time is running out. Johan has nothing else to throw at the lions. If the pride attacks, Gary is unlikely to escape alive. South African conservationist Gary Kamasha is being ripped apart by a lion. The rest of the pride are about to join the attack.
Hey! I can't keep them back any longer!
Fearing for his life, Johan has gotten back in the vehicle.
The worst moment for me, Johan shouting, I can't fend him anymore, and his door closing, hearing his door banging, closing up. I realized how close I was to death.
Gary struggles desperately to free himself. He punches the lion in the eye, but it won't let go.
And I was just going down on his eye with my fist as hard as I could, and putting my thumb into his eyes and pressing down.
For a moment, the lion loosens its grip. Gary sees his chance and takes it.
I think what he wanted to do was to reposition himself and take me down. When he started opening his mouth, I ripped my leg out of his mouth.
Harry, come! Come! Come on, get in! Come!
The rest of the pride was very psyched up. 4, 5, 10 seconds longer than I would have been taken and ripped apart.
Adrenaline is coursing through Gary's body, numbing his pain.
We need to have it checked out by a professional, okay?
Only when he's safely away does he realize the severity of his wounds.
Okay.
When I looked down, I saw the piece of flesh hanging out the back of my leg. He ripped some of my tendons out of my arm as well, and I didn't even pick up that I couldn't use my left hand properly.
Let's pull over. I'll drive, okay? Okay. Just pull over. Okay. Pull over.
It takes half an hour to get to the nearest hospital.
On the road down to the doctor, I remember I started feeling very awkward. I started getting a bit nauseous and not feeling well. I was bleeding extensively.
Gary gets more than 50 stitches in his leg and arm. He's lucky to be alive.
There was a number of things that saved my life that day, and the one thing that was definitely the fact that he was inexperienced and a young lion, and the fact that I saw him coming for me and jumped backwards.
Just a few weeks later, Gary returns to work on the game reserve. In the meantime, the lioness's wounds has healed naturally, and she's given birth to a healthy litter. Gary's close brush with death has made him realize that on the savannah, you can never drop your guard.
I think what it did cause me is to be way more cautious than I was at that point, because I can remember I was getting more and more complacent with these animals.
Ever since Homo sapiens first walked the African savanna, we have lived in fear of the mighty lion. These superb predators have ruled their territory for over 1 million years. Unarmed, humans stand little chance. Even today, more than 100 people every year are killed by lions.
Humans have always been on the menu of lions throughout history, you know, throughout our coevolution with them.
But lions are not the only man-eaters here. The hyena is just as deadly. It can eat every part of its victim, even the bones. Hyenas are despised because they dig up graves and eat human remains. And feared because they kill the living. In the 1950s, hyenas terrorized a village in Malawi. They killed and devoured 27 people, many of them children. The stealthy man-eaters crept up on villagers as they slept outdoors during hot weather. They grabbed their victims by the head and dragged them off into the bushes to feed. There was little left for devastated families to bury. Hyenas are fearless predators. In 1972, a Malawi schoolteacher, Yerendus Luggage, was cycling to work when he was taken down by hyenas. He knew there'd be nothing left of him if they dragged him away. He fought as hard as he could, screaming for help. By the time villagers rescued him, he was barely alive. People forget how deadly hyenas can be. Danny Tail Blanche wasn't scared of them until one tried to eat him alive.
And I thought, I'm going to die now.
Spring 1998. Aircraft pilot Danny Terreblanche is enjoying a week's vacation with friends on the Zambezi River. Every year, the group heads off into the wilderness for a taste of adventure.
All the time there's exciting moments because there's a lot of hippo, there's crocodiles, lions, and of course hyenas.
After an action-packed day on the water, the friends pull up for the evening. A ground crew has set up camp and cooked a hearty meal.
We thought we had a very successful trip, so we were a very happy bunch of people.
Great 6 days.
It's the last day of the holiday. Time to celebrate.
Some of my friends were wine farmers, and of course we brought a lot of good wine with us. We had lions every night. We knew there was quite a lot of lions, but nobody had a gun.
Are you sure you're still going to sleep out here tonight?
Yeah, man.
Predators are nearby, but Danny won't sleep in a tent. A big mistake.
There's a recipe for hyena attacks, and the recipe would be sleeping with your door open, sleeping in your sleeping bag on the ground outside of a tent.
Oh, I think about that. I'm going to call it a night. Good night, gentlemen. Yeah, sleep well.
All right.
Yeah, you too. Good night to you.
Every night I slept outside, yes. But with some protection, I had chairs around my mattress, and of course I had a mosquito net that was hanging from a tree.
But a flimsy mosquito net won't stop a hungry man-eater.
These are animals that can dent a pipe, a 1-inch pipe. They can crush it without hurting their teeth.
At night, the hyena has a huge advantage. It can see in the dark.
Hyenas, like all nocturnal hunters, have incredible ability to see and smell at night. Night vision is excellent. They're looking for garbage. They're looking for the things that were thrown out after dinner. And they come onto something like a person laying there sleeping. That's a carcass to a hyena. You are a large meal for them. They're not going to check your pulse before they go ahead and grab you.
I thought somebody, they hit me with a plank over my head.
When Danny realizes it's a hyena attack, his blood runs cold. If it drags him into the bushes, it could tear him apart in seconds. Danny Terreblanche is on a kayaking holiday on the Zambezi River when he is attacked by a hyena.
I've got no weapon, and I think my way of protecting myself is to pull a thick blanket over my head. It doesn't bite my head off.
A hyena's bite can exert a force of up to 1,000 pounds. They have particularly large teeth, premolars to crush bones, and carnassials at the back of the mouth, which slice up meat like scissors.
They have the strongest bite of any predator on Earth. Stronger than a lion, stronger than a bear. They go through bone like you and I go through a candy bar.
I tried to lie on my stomach in a crawl position, but was just instinct. Then it grabbed me by the neck and it dragged me.
A few feet further into the bushes, and he could be ripped to pieces by the hungry hyena.
he will proceed to drag you off and start eating you. That's what would happen.
The hyena strategy is to kill you and then dismember you and then run away with whatever bits they could.
Without the support of the rest of the pack, the hyena cannot fight for its meal. So it retreats.
I felt the pain in my head, and when I felt it with my hand, I knew there was something terribly wrong. I felt a hole in my head. My biggest fear was that I lost my ear and I'm going to lose my hearing. And of course, the first thing that goes through one's mind is that I'm going to lose my flying career.
Luckily, Danny's ear is still in one piece.
Hold on, we just need to clean it, yeah.
My ear was still in the mosquito net, hanging by a little piece of skin from my head. I think they probably will wash it with some good old Cape dry red wine.
Desperate to save his ear, his friends bind it back onto the gaping wound. The nearest hospital is in Kariba, 80 miles across rough terrain. They need to hurry. Danny is at grave risk of a deadly infection. Hyenas eat rotting carcasses, and their mouths are crawling with dangerous bacteria.
You can imagine the bumps in the road. I don't know how many times I've passed out.
Adrenaline from the attack is wearing off. Danny's in shock.
I prayed a lot, and I asked God to help me, and that was, I think, that maybe pulled me through.
All right, now we're going to go to the end now. This is good. Come on, the place is going to be good.
It takes them nearly 9 hours to reach Kariba. The town only has a small basic hospital. The doctor does what she can to save Danny's ear.
She had to stitch it back onto my head, but there was no anesthetics. My friends had to hold me on the table while she did the job. That was very, very painful.
Danny's then flown back to South Africa, where a plastic surgeon performs 3 painful operations. His ear is finally restored, and he can resume his flying career. As Danny discovered, on the savannah, Homo sapiens can become just another link in the food chain. Humans aren't the usual prey for hyenas and lions. But when food is scarce, these animals will attack almost anything. In 1898, when an epidemic meant other prey was in short supply, 2 hungry lions launched one of the worst series of attacks ever recorded. The man-eating pair are thought to have killed more than 100 railway workers in Kenya. The lions may have begun by scavenging graves. Then, with a taste for human flesh, they began a bloody rampage that lasted 9 months. Work came to a standstill. Night curfews were imposed. Workers hoped high fences and fires would keep them safe. but the lions still got in. They pulled their prey from their beds and dragged them off into the bushes to be devoured. Chief Engineer Lieutenant Colonel John Henry Patterson knew he had to kill the lions if the railway was to be built. He tried for months to catch the savage predators. Then, finally, on the night of December 9th, 1898, he managed to shoot the first lion. 20 days later, he killed the second. Patterson became an instant hero. Male lions are extremely dangerous, but the lioness is just as deadly. She is a true hunter of the pride, a ruthless, efficient killer. When Bruce Meekall had to hunt a rogue lioness, he soon found out why these predators have such a terrifying reputation.
She had bitten down from the top of my head, and I was fighting for my life.
Limpopo, South Africa. This lioness is a loner. She's old and hungry. Local villagers are terrified she might start preying on their cattle or on them.
The lions are usually persecuted by people because they pose a threat. Usually that threat is to their livestock, to their goats or their cattle.
Professional hunters are called in to put her down. Leading the team is conservationist Bruce Meekall. He's sad to have to kill such a magnificent animal. Doing the job humanely is his top priority.
It's your responsibility to make sure that things are done properly and as ethically as possible.
You got the rope? Yep.
You know, make sure that the animal goes down, you know, in a clean sweep. We had been notified by one of the trackers where the lioness was, so we headed up in our vehicle to that area. There's quite a few things to take into consideration when hunting a lion. Wind direction, the vegetation around you, and obviously the fact that you've got to have a clear visual around you. You don't want to be in really dense bush where you can end up in a bad situation.
Bruce and his crew begin tracking the rogue lioness.
So we started walking, looking for signs to see where she was. Tracks, old kills, things like that.
But the lioness has probably already picked up the hunter's scent and keeps out of sight.
Lions are very good hunters. They're very good at camouflaging themselves.
For 2 days, they search for the big cat, but she remains invisible. The longer it takes to find her, the greater the danger to local villagers.
If lions can get away with it, if they have opportunities, they consider humans part of the diet, especially in more harsh environments where prey density of their preferred prey is lower.
Finally, they work out which way the animal is heading. If they're quick, they just might catch her.
Later that morning, we had actually bumped into her purely through tracking. That enabled us, obviously, to get set up to take the shot.
Bruce wants to take the lioness out with a single bullet. If he only wounds her, she's likely to attack. Bruce Meekall has been tracking a rogue lioness for 2 days. He now needs to put her down with a single bullet.
The shot was a good shot. But she got up and ran off. Went into thick bush.
Something has gone very wrong. The bullet hit the lioness, but hasn't killed her.
So the bullet hadn't done what it was supposed to do. The bullet opens up and has a hard impact in order to make an instant kill. In this situation, it basically just went straight through.
If you didn't kill them the first time, and you just wounded them and it wasn't in a vital area and they survived, you would never get a chance again to catch up with them. And if you did, it would be after they killed another dozen or more people.
This is hard for Bruce. What should have been a swift, humane kill has resulted in an angry, injured animal.
The animal's adrenaline is up, and by walking in there immediately, you basically putting yourself into a situation where she's going to come out and attack you.
They decide to give the lioness a chance to calm down.
We head back as a safety precaution and got in our vehicles.
An hour later, Bruce sets off again. He knows that he and his team are now vulnerable. The lioness is on the defensive and could strike at any moment.
When a lion is badly injured, they'll retreat 2 or 3 times at the most before they'll turn and they'll attack, whether you have 100 people with you or whether it's 1 or 2 people.
The lioness has the hunters in her sights. She waits patiently for them to come closer. Her pursuers are now her prey.
The lions will cover a distance of 100 meters in about 6 seconds. So there's not much chance to get into any position. So you basically turn, point, and take your shot. By the time I reloaded to take the second shot, she had jumped onto me.
The attack is savage. The lioness goes straight for Bruce's head.
The main thing that they go for is the most vital spot and the most vulnerable spot, and that's the neck and the head.
As we came down towards the ground, she had already had her mouth over my head and bit me on the back of my head. With the impact of us hitting the ground, my head bounced out of her mouth. You just see teeth and saliva and hair, and I mean the sound that they make is incredibly loud.
The others can't fire. They could hit Bruce.
They fling you around like a rag doll. With their strength and power, every time they hit you, your whole body is being thrown about.
She would have been feeling for his vertebrae so she could puncture and sever the spinal cord.
The wounded cat is in a frenzy.
You don't know what's happening. You're just trying to get a grip of the whole situation around you and what to do in order to survive.
The lioness is much stronger than Bruce. The moment he weakens, she will kill him. Bruce Meekall has been savagely attacked by a wounded lioness. His team can't shoot her because they might kill him. He's become human prey.
Once they go into attack mode, they don't turn back. And then they're going to press that attack until either you're dead or they're dead.
All you're thinking about is trying to survive. Trying to get yourself into a position of maybe having an inch of control.
He must try to keep the lioness from moving long enough for his team to shoot her without hitting him. Bruce is an experienced hunter. He knows the lioness will try to gut him with her back claws.
My natural instinct was to pick my legs up so she didn't disembowel me. And when she came for my face, that's when I stuck my arm in her mouth.
Bruce has disabled 2 of her deadly weapons, her teeth and back claws. He hugs the lioness tight to immobilize her. The ordeal is finally over. But even though she nearly killed him, Bruce can't help regretting that this superb creature had to be put down.
In the instance when she had died, there is being so close, there is definitely a feeling that goes through you of what's happened to you and what's happened to her.
Shock sets in quickly. Bruce needs urgent medical attention. He has torn veins and over 40 lacerations. His injuries are life-threatening. A lion's saliva carries bacteria, which can cause terrible infection and internal bleeding.
I spent 5.5 hours in surgery. I came out of hospital after 1.5 to 2 weeks. You know, then it's a long recovery, I think, from there, mentally and physically. Within a couple of months, I'd healed up. I was able to use, my arm again and a bit of therapy that, that helped. On the mental side, I think you've got to accept what's happened to you and move forward.
There's very few first-hand accounts like that, because lions usually, when they attack like that, they usually kill their victim.
Bruce is lucky to survive. Despite his close brush with death, he goes back to work as a conservation manager in a savanna. But he's given up hunting for good.
It's hard to go back to doing what you were doing after an incident like that. There's definitely a sense of respect and a sense of fear.
Lions and hyenas can kill a person in seconds, but attacks are rare. Normally, these predators will avoid us. It's only when food is scarce or they feel threatened that they strike. And And when they do, the results are devastating.
I realized how close I was to death that day. I think it gave me a lot of more respect for life. It made me realizing that every moment, any moment could be your last moment.
Surprisingly, many survivors don't blame the animals.
I've got more respect for hyenas because it's an opportunistic killer. I have more respect for hyena, and I won't take a chance or give them a chance.
My whole life I've worked in the conservation industry. And you work with dangerous game on a daily basis. So, yeah, there's definitely a respect for big game, knowing their potential, but also the fact that we are in their territory.
As we encroach ever further into their territory, there will still be times on the African savanna when we become human prey.